Hi, it's Emily Farrington from childsplayactivities.com here. I wanted to come on and do a series of informational videos to help you as a parent or a caregiver to a young child to help support their development through play and lots of other parenting things I'm sure we'll discover along the way. So today I wanted to talk about milestones and not about at this age your child will reach this milestone. I wanted to talk about chasing milestones, and it's something that I did a lot when Ayla was little, and it's something that had a huge impact on my motherhood. So I wanted to come on and talk to you about how to stop chasing milestones to help us stress less and to help us actually probably meet their milestones quicker than if we were stressing about the next one. So I'll talk to you a little bit about my journey into motherhood first, and then I will go through the strategy that I use to stop chasing milestones and the strategy I now use to push Ayla to her very limits of play, and she learns a lot quicker this way. So my journey into motherhood very much wasn't an easy journey, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't have an easy journey, and at the time I felt like we were hitting every hurdle on the race and we weren't really jumping over very many easily. Ayla was born with a cleft palate. She then had some genetic testing done, and she has a partial deletion to one of her chromosomes. No one else on the database has the same deletion, so they pretty much said, we don't know. Some children had the same or sort of similar deletion and met all their milestones at the right time and were absolutely fine. And then there was other children who had learning disabilities and needed that extra support. So they just weren't really sure. And I found myself looking at the milestones and almost obsessing over them and getting really stressed when Ayla wasn't meeting a milestone yet, and actually she'd not really had a chance to practice it at all. So the one time I remember the most is because of Ayla's cleft palate, she couldn't suck, so she had a feeding tube when she was a baby, and she had a special bottle that we had to squeeze to act as her suck. Now, she had her palate repair, and I remember going to a cafe with my sister-in-law and my niece and nephew with Ayla, and she sucked through a straw for the first time. And I was so excited and I was so amazed because that's something she'd never done before, because she couldn't do that before her palate repair. And it's something that, as a parent with a child who didn't have a cleft palate, you probably wouldn't even think twice about the fact that your child had sucked through a straw. And it's something that meant so much to me because it proved to me that we were making progress and we were going in the right direction. And it was finally a hurdle that we'd jumped over, which we hadn't done before. And in that moment, I realised that it didn't really matter when she met her milestones, because we're all on our own journey and they're going to meet the milestones that they need to meet when they're ready to meet it. And when did it become a race? Like, when did we start racing other parents to get our children to do things before their child, so we could say that our child was sitting up really early, or our child was walking, or like when did we turn it into this race? And perhaps it was in my head, and maybe it was, but I see a lot of parents on groups asking about milestones and worrying because their child's not walking yet or their child's not sitting yet. And actually, they will probably do it when they're ready. And of course, if you've got any concerns, I'm not saying that we should totally write the guidelines off, but if you've got any concerns, then contact your local health professional and they can point you in the right direction, or they can give you some extra advice. Excuse me. And they can help you. But at the end of the day, they're probably going to do it at their own pace. So when I stopped racing other parents, when I stopped stressing about the next milestone, because that was a big thing when Ayla learned how to sit, I was excited that she could sit, but I was then looking at the next milestone, like, what can we do next? What are we reaching for next? And I kind of forgot to celebrate where we were at that moment in time. And it's something that goes so fast. I know people, it's the generic thing to say, and people say they grow up really quick, but they really do, and it's stuff like that we should really celebrate. And it's something I didn't celebrate enough because I was constantly reaching for the next milestone. Um, and when we're proud of them for who they are and as they achieve things, and we're proud of them because they've achieved it, not because they've done it first or they've done it before someone else. We're proud of them for doing it for them. They learn that they can come to us with any achievement and we can just be proud of that and we can celebrate that in the moment. And there was a really interesting study, and I cannot for the life of me remember where I saw it now, about two twins who were studied I think they were about 10 months old, so they were starting to stand on their feet, they were starting to cruise. And one twin, they really, really pushed to walk. So everything they did with that child was to push them to walk. So they walked with walkers, they walked with parents holding their hands, and they were really focused on getting that twin to walk. Whereas the other child wasn't giving so much pressure on walking. She was given the opportunities to walk and play with the things around her, but the parents didn't hold her hand so often. They sort of did it as you would as a normal parent trying to help their child to walk. And the twin that they really focused on walking only started walking independently 3 weeks before his sister. And to me, that's a huge thing, because did that 3 weeks really matter? If he was going to walk anyway, was your time not better spent playing with him and letting him know that he can do it when he's ready and building memories in other areas, rather than really, really focusing on getting him to walk? And that's a huge thing, like, for me especially, because that's something I really focused on. I would push for the next milestone, and actually if he only did it 3 weeks before his sister, then he was going to do it anyway. And what difference does 3 weeks make really in the reality of things? So the strategy I implemented, and my golden rule, is if it's hard, they're not ready. And it is as simple as that. I found this rule out when we started potty training Ayla. So lockdown hit, and I thought it was a perfect opportunity to potty train, because we weren't going out anywhere because we couldn't. We were going to be at home, so there was no pressure. So I was like, yep, let's do it. Let's potty train her. I spoke to Ayla about what we were going to do, and that she was going to do her wee-wees on the potty, and we'd sit on it, and we pretended her baby was doing wee-wees on the potty and all that jazz. And she sat on the potty and she stood up, and there was no wee-wees, which is fine. I was going to sit her down again in like 20 minutes or something. And then she did a wee next to the potty, having just stood up. And that's just how our morning went. She just was not getting it, and I was getting stressed, and she was getting stressed, and no one was gaining anything positive from the situation. So I stopped. I popped a pull-up back on her, and we got on with our day, and we didn't mention potties or potty training for probably another month or so. And she happened to be swimming around in our paddling pool because it was nice weather, and she started to do a wee, so we managed to quickly sweep her onto the potty and get a tiny little bit of wee in the potty, and we really celebrated that and praised her and made a massive thing about it. And the next day I decided we'd try potty training again, and I did the same thing. I explained to her what was going to happen, she'd do wee-wees on the potty, etc, etc. And you know what? She nailed it. And by the end of the day, I wasn't even having to ask her if she needed a wee. She was just sitting on the potty and she was doing it. And there was no stress, and we both gained from it. And it was as easy as that. And other than us catching the magic wee on the potty, like, nothing had changed. She was just ready at that point in time. So if it's hard, they're not ready. And that's fine, because you can then look at them and you can think, well, can we take a step back from this and support them in that area, and perhaps we can work towards it? Or maybe we just need to wait. Maybe they're not interested, and we just need to wait a little while longer until they gain that interest and they are just ready to do it. So if it's hard, they're not ready. And a key thing is watching them, because they're just like us, and children are hardwired to learn. They're just like us in that they will learn what they're interested in. And just because the guidelines are there, they don't follow it step by step. So whereas Ayla might be really interested in letters, that's something she's really interested in the moment. She will look for A's in pieces of text and she'll point them out and say, A for Ayla. And that's something she's really interested in. Whereas my friend's little boy loves numbers, and he can recognise his numbers, and he's really good at that side of things. And Ayla's just not interested in numbers. That's not something she has any interest in at the moment. And that's absolutely fine. It doesn't mean she's behind. It just means that she's not ready to explore that yet. So have the resources in place so that when she's ready to explore that, she can. But while she's interested in letters, make the most of that opportunity to create activities and invitations to play around letters, and finding A for Ayla, and finding maybe B for baby. And that way, because she's interested in it, she's going to push herself that way, and she's really going to be interested in it, because that's where her interest lies. And like us, if someone was trying to teach me about football, I probably would pay absolutely no attention, because I'm not interested in that. But if someone was to talk to me about something crafty, because I love creating things, I'd probably really be interested in what they were trying to say to me. And that's fine. We all have our strengths and we all have our weaknesses, and we all have our interests, and that's just what makes us us. So observe them and implement activities that will support what they're interested in at the moment. And children are brilliant. Like I said, they're hardwired to learn at a very young age. And as they play and as they go through things independently, you'll find that they push themselves to the very limit of their abilities. And in that's when they learn the next step. So like I said, Ayla's looking for A for Ayla, so perhaps I can put a sensory bin together where we've got other letters, so either her name or B for baby, so we can recognise some other letters, so she can look for them and she can find A for Ayla. But then she picks up the B and she's like, what one is this? So we can talk about that, and we can say that one is a B for baby, and we can work through that because she's interested in it. So yeah, if it's hard, they're not ready, watch them and observe them when they're playing by themselves, so when they're not guided by us, and then implement where their interests are, implement activities and invitations to play, and look for them next steps. It doesn't have to be a massive next step, so just like, okay, so they're looking at this right now, what could we do next to push them that little bit further? And they'll explore that when they're ready, and we can help support them when they are ready. So that's it for today. The key things to take away is don't stress and stop chasing them milestones, because they will do it when they're ready. They're important, so don't throw them out the window. I'm not saying we need to get rid of them, because they're helpful for us to know roughly where our children are, and if we need that additional support from health professionals. And of course, contact them if you feel like you do need some extra support, but don't use them as a tick sheet. If it's hard, they're not ready. Observe your child and see where their interests lie, and create activities and invitations to play to help push them that little bit further. And through that, you're going to create amazing connections. They're going to know that you're there for them and you're really interested in what they're interested in, and you're going to celebrate them for who they are. I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that little bell so YouTube tells me when I upload a new video, and give me a thumbs up if you found it really useful as well. See you next time. Bye.